My name is Anna. I'm 27 years old and I live in Savannah, Georgia, a soft, quiet city by the coast. The streets are slow, the air carries the scent of trees and salt, and the river always seems to whisper stories when I walk by it. I work as a graphic designer in a small downtown office, designing posters and flyers. The people I work with are kind, and I like the gentle rhythm of my days: coffee in the morning, music in my headphones, the soft clicking of keys under my fingers. For a long time, I felt content. I had a boyfriend, Daniel. We'd been together 4 years. We met at a friend's barbecue. He told a silly story, and I laughed without meaning to. After that, we talked more and more. Soon, we were together. Daniel worked in sales for a travel company. His life was busier than mine, filled with calls and flights and meetings. He didn't live with me, but he often stayed over. We cooked dinner together, watched shows, talked about our days. Sometimes, he brought flowers. He made me feel safe. He made the world feel warmer. Daniel often talked about the future. A house, a dog, travel, maybe a family. He'd say things like, "One day, we'll have our own backyard." And I believed him. I believed in us. I thought we were building something real, something strong. Then everything changed. It was a Friday night. I was washing dishes when my phone rang. It was Nina, my best friend since high school. Her voice was quieter than usual. "Can we talk?" she asked. "Of course," I said, drying my hands. She hesitated before she spoke. "I saw Daniel yesterday. He was at Riverwalk Cafe with a woman." I froze. "They were sitting very close," she said gently. He was holding her hand. I wanted to believe she was wrong. I asked if she was sure. She said yes. She sounded sad, not angry. And I knew Nina, she wouldn't lie. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, turning over every word he'd said, every message he'd sent. Just the day before, he told me he was in a meeting. He said he'd call later. But he never did. The next evening, Daniel came over. He brought my favorite pizza. He kissed me on the cheek, smiled, and asked how my day had been. I said fine. He told me a funny story about work. I smiled, but my chest was tight. I looked at him and asked, "Were you at Riverwalk Cafe yesterday?" He paused, then looked away. "Yes." "Were you with someone?" "Yes. Her name's Emily. She works with me." "Were you holding her hand?" Silence. Then, yes. The room felt like it disappeared. I stood up, walked to the window. Outside, the world went on. Cars, people, lights. But my world had tilted. "Why?" I asked, my voice barely there. "I don't know," he said. "We started talking at work. I like her. But I still care about you. I didn't want to hurt you." "But you did," I whispered. He looked down. "I didn't plan it. It just happened." I didn't know what to say. I told him I needed time. He nodded. "Okay." Then he left. The room was so quiet. That night, I cried. I looked at the photos on the wall, the ones where we were laughing, holding hands, exploring little towns. I asked myself if any of it had been real. The next morning, Nina came over. She brought coffee and donuts. She didn't try to give advice. She just sat next to me and said, "You don't have to decide anything right now." I nodded. I was grateful she was there. That weekend, I didn't go out. I stayed home and reread old texts, looked at pictures, remembered his laugh. I started writing in a notebook. I wrote about the pain, the questions, the confusion. I wrote letters to Daniel that I never sent. I walked by the river alone, hoping the water would soothe the ache in my chest. One night, I looked in the mirror. My eyes were swollen, red. But there was something else in my reflection. A woman still standing. A woman still breathing. I said to myself, you didn't do anything wrong. You gave love. You gave trust. You didn't deserve this. The next morning, I put away the gifts he gave me. I turned off my phone. I cleaned the apartment. I whispered, I will be okay. I will find peace again. The days passed slowly. I went to work, smiled at people, designed in silence. But inside, I felt broken. I missed him. I missed who I thought he was. I missed the future I thought we had. Every night, I replayed everything in my mind. And every time, it hurt. But Nina called every day. She brought soup, chocolate, soft words. Sometimes we sat in silence. Sometimes I cried. She told me I was strong for facing the truth. I started writing again. Not about Daniel, but about myself. I remembered that I used to paint. I used to love long walks in the park. I used to read for hours. I had forgotten those parts of me. I had wrapped too much of myself around someone else. I made a list of what I wanted from love. Honesty. Safety. Respect. Someone who chooses me every single day. A week later, Daniel called. I didn't answer. He called again. The third time, he sent a message, I miss you. Can we talk? I didn't know what to do. I called Nina. It's your choice, she said. Just be honest with yourself. The next morning, I told him to meet me at the park near the river. It was quiet there. When he arrived, he looked nervous. We sat on a bench. The wind was soft. I'm sorry, he said. I made a mistake. I didn't know what I had until I lost it. I miss you. I want to fix this. He looked different. Quieter. Sadder. I listened. Then I spoke. Daniel. I loved you. I gave you everything. But you broke my trust. You chose someone else. And I can't forget that. He looked down. I deserve someone who doesn't lie. Someone who knows they want me, without question. He didn't try to argue. He just nodded. I need to move on, I said. I need to heal. I stood up, legs shaking. I looked at him one last time and said, goodbye. That night, I cried again. But this time, the tears felt different. They were for release, not for regret. I started doing things I used to love. I painted. I read. I walked slowly, listened to music, drank tea on the porch. I looked at the sky and whispered, you are strong, Anna. You are healing. One afternoon, I went to the library. I reached for a book on the top shelf. I couldn't quite reach. Here, let me help, a voice said beside me. He handed me the book and smiled. I was reaching for the same one. He had kind eyes. A quiet presence. My name's Daniel, he said. My heart skipped. Same name, but this was someone new. Anna, I said. We started talking. About books. Coffee. Favorite spots in Savannah. He didn't try to impress me. He was just present. We met again. And again. We walked by the river. Sometimes we spoke, sometimes we didn't. It felt easy. Gentle. He didn't ask for my heart. He just gave me space. One day, he said, you don't have to tell me anything you're not ready to say. I just like spending time with you. That night, I wrote in my journal. I wrote that I was not the same Anna anymore. I was stronger. I had survived something heavy and come out lighter. I don't know what the future holds with this new Daniel. But I do know this, I will never lose myself again. I will choose peace. I will choose love that feels safe. And most of all, I will always choose me. Some days still feel long. I'd like to say the past never visits me anymore, but that wouldn't be true. It lingers soft at the edges now, like an old photograph that's begun to fade. I still pass the Riverwalk Cafe sometimes. I still feel a slight ache. But it's no longer sharp. It's just a quiet knowing. A reminder of what I survived. The new Daniel and I still see each other, though we never call it anything. Not yet. He doesn't rush things. He respects the silence between us as much as the words. That's rare. And beautiful. One evening, after a walk by the river, we sat on a wooden bench as the sky turned pink. He looked out at the water and said, "You seem lighter than when I first met you." I didn't answer right away. I was thinking about that first day in the library, the weight I still carried then. The careful way I smiled. The way I flinched at kindness. "I think I am," I said quietly. That night, I went home and pulled out my paints. The canvas had been sitting untouched for over a year. I painted something simple, a sky, a river, a girl walking alone. But this time, there was light in her steps. The strokes were softer. I let the colors bleed where they wanted. It didn't have to be perfect. It just had to be real. I started doing that more, letting things be imperfect. Letting days unfold slowly. I stopped apologizing for needing space. I stopped explaining my silence. Some evenings, I sit on the porch with tea and a blanket. Sometimes Daniel joins me. We talk about art, music, or nothing at all. The silence doesn't scare me anymore. It feels like safety now. One Sunday, we went to a bookstore across town. He picked up a copy of a poetry book I loved and said, "This reminds me of you." I smiled. "Why?" "Because it's quiet. But it stays with you." I didn't know what to say. I just nodded. Because that's how I wanted to be now, quiet, grounded, and steady. Not someone forgotten. Not someone discarded. But someone who stays. Even if it's just for herself. Daniel doesn't know everything yet. About the tears. About the heartbreak on a kitchen floor. About the goodbye that left me gasping for air. Maybe one day I'll tell him. Or maybe I won't need to. He doesn't ask. And somehow, that's what makes me want to tell him more. I still write in my journal. But the pages look different now. There are fewer questions and more declarations. I am enough. I am healing. I am open, but only to what feeds me. And love doesn't always come fast. Sometimes it arrives gently, like a tide, slow, soft, and certain. A few weeks after our bookstore trip, Daniel invited me to an art fair in the historic district. I hesitated before saying yes. Crowds used to exhaust me. They still do sometimes. But this felt different. This felt like a hand stretched out, not to pull me forward, but just to walk beside me. The sun was warm that Saturday. Savannah was golden, the trees casting dancing shadows on the cobblestones. I wore a soft cream dress and tied my hair back loosely. I wanted to feel the breeze on my neck. Daniel met me near the fountain. He held a canvas tote and handed me a small coffee. 2 sugars, no cream, he said. I smiled. You remembered. He shrugged. It felt important. We walked slowly past the booths, pottery, oils, watercolors. I stopped at a woman's stall filled with paintings of rivers and small cottages. One piece caught my eye. A girl, sitting alone by the edge of a lake, her reflection softly rippled by the water's breeze. There was both loneliness and strength in the way she sat. She wasn't waiting. She wasn't hiding. She was just being. That's you, Daniel said behind me. I blinked. What? That's what I thought when I saw it. My throat tightened. He bought the painting without asking me, wrapped it carefully, and carried it in his tote the rest of the day. We didn't talk about it, but I kept glancing at the curve of it through the fabric. It felt like something had quietly shifted. That evening, after I got home, I placed the painting on my bedroom shelf. I stared at it a long time. I was starting to believe that maybe someone could really see me again, without needing me to explain everything. Without needing me to break open to be worthy of love. On a rainy Tuesday, I cleaned out an old drawer and found the letters I had written to the first Daniel. They were folded neatly, still sealed. I sat on the floor, listening to the sound of rain against the window. I read through one. Then another. I could barely recognize the girl who wrote them. She had begged for answers. For clarity. For love. I held the stack in my hands. For a long time. Then I tore them, slowly, gently. It didn't feel like rage. It felt like peace. Like setting something down after carrying it too far. That night, I lit a candle and let the pieces burn in a bowl on my porch. The flames crackled softly, like whispers leaving my chest. I watched them turn to ash. My chest felt lighter. I didn't need those words anymore. I had said all I needed to say. And I had survived the silence that followed. One morning, Daniel and I met near the river, but something felt different. I felt different. The sun glinted off the water, and the breeze made the leaves rustle like soft applause. He brought 2 sandwiches and a little box of strawberries. We sat near the edge, our feet brushing the grass. At one point, he said, "Can I ask you something personal?" I nodded slowly. "Did someone hurt you? Before we met?" The question didn't scare me. Not anymore. It felt like a door I could open, because I chose to. "Yes," I said. "Someone I loved chose someone else." And for a long time, I thought it meant I wasn't enough. He didn't rush to respond. He just looked at me with gentle eyes. "I'm sorry," he said finally. "You didn't deserve that." There was no awkwardness. No push for details. Just presence. I looked out at the water and whispered, "I know that now." There's a little lamp on my porch. I never used to turn it on. But now, every evening, I do. It casts a warm glow, soft and golden, like a promise to myself that light will always return. Daniel doesn't come over every day. And I don't need him to. I like the space. The slowness. The quiet. We take things one moment at a time. Sometimes we paint together. Sometimes we go to poetry readings. Sometimes we sit silently on opposite ends of the couch, each reading our own book. There's no pressure. No proving. Just presence. He once told me, "You don't have to love me the same way you did him. You don't have to do anything fast. Just stay true to yourself." And I think that's the most beautiful thing anyone has ever said to me. Months have passed now. The ache is gone. The memories are softer. I don't flinch when I pass old places. I smile when I hear my favorite songs again. I paint more often. I journal less, because I don't feel lost anymore. I still get sad sometimes. Healing isn't a perfect line. But I always find my way back to myself. I don't know where this new Daniel and I are going. And strangely, I'm okay with not knowing. Because I trust myself now. I trust that I'll never stay where I'm not loved fully. I trust that I will always return to myself. And that's what peace is. Not perfection. But return. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment and share. More emotional and inspiring stories are think that's the most beautiful thing anyone has ever said to me. Months have passed now. The ache is gone. The memories are softer. I don't flinch when I pass old places. I smile when I hear my favorite songs again. I paint more often. I journal less, because I don't feel lost anymore. I still get sad sometimes. Healing isn't a perfect line. But I always find my way back to myself. I don't know where this new Daniel and I are going. And strangely, I'm okay with not knowing. Because I trust myself now. I trust that I'll never stay where I'm not loved fully. I trust that I will always return to myself. And that's what peace is. Not perfection. But return. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment and share. More emotional and inspiring stories are coming.